Hey Scorpios, and welcome to your 2018 year ahead forecast done by me, Sky. I'm here to hopefully provide you some insight and illumination about the energies and momentum present for this zodiac sign in the year of 2018. So, Scorpios, huge year. Probably the most activated sign of the zodiac. Jupiter is in your sign and it's here until November. So for basically the entire year of 2018, you have the planet of success, luck, benevolence, indulgence, expansion, philosophy in your sign. And it's kind of hard. I did a video on Jupiter and Scorpio in specific if you want to see that. That's in the top right hand corner right now to get more insight there. But basically, Scorpios, you've had a bit of a rough time since about 2014 when Saturn went into Scorpio. It was there in a bit of 13, 14, and 15, and then you had in 2016 Mars retrograde in your sign right after Saturn. So a lot of Scorpios have kind of found themselves throughout these past few years in an extreme cycle of trauma, chaos, and crisis. And 2018 Scorpio is an incredible opportunity to take all of that and forge within yourself something that will never be breakable in the same way again. Because there is like a new experience with your own fragility as a person, but also the strength that you've gained based on the ways that you've broken over the last few years that must come to the surface and must be channeled into almost a new form. I feel that 2018 is a year of transformation and transmutation for Scorpio, where you have to almost find yourself at the crossroads. I feel in like January through March, there's like a sitting at the crossroads and understanding what the options are and finding your power in your decision-making process. And then by about the end of March and moving into April, there has to be like a commitment form. There has to be a commitment to yourself, first and foremost, the ability to return to yourself, because I feel that that's where a lot of the trauma and chaos impact came in the Scorpio experience after the Saturn transit. So a lot of you perhaps had like a wonderful, exciting, and life-changing experience in like 2015, summer 2015. Then that year cycle from then to like summer 2016 and fall 2016 probably gave you something that felt like you couldn't recover from. And the timeline may be different for some of you, but definitely analyze that period of time, like summer 2015 to summer 2016, because that's where a lot of, I feel, the damage has occurred. And I feel that that's a lot of what Jupiter is connecting to and transmuting. So for example, if you had like a terrible traumatic relationship experience during that time, you can see that in this year of 2018, when Jupiter reactivates that experience in a more benevolent way, that pain and that trauma is transmuted into like the most incredible album or the most incredible creative project or new matrimony of yourself to other people or to yourself. Basically, it can't quite fix itself in the same sector. So if you had like the huge like career falling out, or you found that you wound up in like a weird power connection with money in, again, the Saturn period of time, you may find that this year that transmutes itself into a more valuable relationship than you've ever had before. If you were like proposed to and you had this perfect wedding experience planned out and then it fell through during that 15-16 period, it's like now you can transmute that into like selling the best wedding dresses that people have experienced in a long time. It's like you have to be able to take something from the last about 4 years of your experience and transmute it into a different sector of your life to find the most success and benevolence. And I feel that it's very important for Scorpio to capitalize on the pain of the past and turn it into something that can either help other people or form a new version of itself separate from you. Because the ultimate thing behind all of this is the self-transformation. And in order to sort of have this metamorphosis, in order to undergo this self-transformation, you have to separate your pain and your burdens from yourself into something physical and tangible, almost turn it into a successful endeavor, and then be able to like break it and leave it behind. And I feel that many different versions of that archetype become prevalent in many Scorpios' lives during 2018. And there could be a lot of things that kind of crop up in like January and February that are not optimum, kind of difficult experiences. I sense a lot of Scorpios not understanding why things haven't quite evened themselves out yet. And that's because, like most astrologers, I tend to consider the New Year energy to be March 21st. Once we get back into Aries time, that's the first sign of the zodiac. So actually January and February are still kind of a part of the 2017 cycle and are still teaching those lessons. So really try to sit with yourself, purge and release any lack of closure, anything that's relying on other people's investment into you to thrive, those types of things have to sort of be reflected on and culminated and let go of, because I sense that Scorpio has to have like a very small time of absolute isolation and selfhood from around March 21st to mid-April in some way. I also sense that some of you are like starting new relationships, falling in love in February, actually, which is interesting considering it's still in that 2017 cycle. Not everyone. And it's like, even if you find yourself in an incredible relationship at the end of March and moving into April, there has to be something of you that returns to yourself and kind of can't be accessed by other people. At the same time, you have to learn to give completely of yourself in these situations. So finding that integration, finding that kind of antithetical humor of situations which can never quite integrate or add up becomes important. And that's another big thing for Scorpio in 2018, is learning to laugh at what doesn't quite work. Try to not take yourself too seriously. Again, Jupiter's in your sign, so it can create a bit of clumsiness. It can create a bit of, again, sagginess, and you can sort of be a bit of a klutz. You can have maybe a few situations that might have been considered embarrassing in the past, but you also are awarded an extreme gracefulness and like lithe quality through that as well, because that's how I consider Jupiter and Sag energy. It's like the most graceful, clumsy energy. So a lot of Scorpios will have incredible health transformations, like losing a lot of weight. I also sense like cosmetic surgery or something that changes the way that you look, or just new diets or new health regimens that kind of alter your projection as a person. And I feel this to be the biggest blessing probably of 2018, because I think that every Scorpio can have some kind of ailment or difficulty, whether it be health or like emotional, to completely just vanish and be overcome through the work that you've done over 2017 and moving into this cycle. So definitely focus your mind onto what hasn't worked out. Like, have you had like skin problems? Has there been like this just lingering like fatigue or acne or something that just can't quite go away no matter what you do? Jupiter in Scorpio is the perfect type of energy to overcome it and to basically be like the eagle archetype of Scorpio and soaring above, and not necessarily having that ego experience where it's like, I am royalty, everyone will be below me. But at the same time, it's like being able to be above and still be on the level of other humanity, if that makes sense, is where Scorpio thrives the most this year. We have Saturn in Capricorn and Pluto in Capricorn as well. Uranus moving into Taurus, that will oppose like some Scorpios, especially on the Libra Scorpio cusp. So those of you born around like October 23rd to 27th are going to feel like a strong Uranus opposition, which is really good and really difficult depending on where it is in your chart, like what house it's in. Very volatile, changing, polarizing energy. And again, just for the Libra Scorpio cuspers, does that really apply to yet? Although collectively we can all kind of feel that. You can have a huge change in surroundings, a change in location, a change in occupation, a change mainly in desire. Even like kind of the energy of like witness protection program where you're like changing your identity, that can happen as well, especially with Pluto making a trine aspect there in Saturn. But I feel that all Scorpios are feeling the Saturn and Capricorn energy. Again, it's kind of a sideline energy. It's not directly hitting you in a strong way, but all Scorpios kind of have to work hard this year. There has to be like a routine, and there has to be like a nail to the grindstone type of energy. And with that, since it's not like an opposition, a square, or a conjunction, it's a sextile. With that, you also get a lot of time to like rest and vacation too through the hard work that you do. You can make more than a lot of other signs by the work that you put in, but there has to be some kind of like hard work that you enjoy, kind of menial, kind of task mastery type of experiences that can give you something of long-term value. And I also feel a lack of energy for this type of thing, again, in like January and February. And you may even have to turn down some appointments that you've made, or turn down some work that you've been given, pull back a little bit. That is supported in January and February, but it's very important to be able to live up to what you commit yourself to after March. Because Jupiter will bless you first and foremost and put like the right people on your path. So like the appointments or commitments that you make, it's not just going to be this drudgery. I mean, it can feel that way, but it's like the drudgery that you do is very spotlighted and seen by the right people, and you can like really ascend your career ladder quickly. Whereas if you don't live up to your appointments, it's just like there's kind of a stagnation that can happen and you can't get very far. And it's okay in January and February, but not so much moving forward into the latter half of the year. So this really hits on, I think, one of the most important things for Scorpio, and that's finding something that you can thrive with. Perhaps a change of career or a change in production or taking on a new hobby or something that you enjoy every aspect of, because this is actually possible. Maybe some of you don't feel that it's possible, but it's really important to understand what you've wanted to do for a long time and ask yourself why you're not doing that. Because you have to understand whether you're like fooling yourself. Is it a grass is greener on the other side complex, or are you actually caught into some kind of purpose experience that is not authentic or part of your own makeup? Because that's another thing that Scorpio's gotten themselves involved in. There can be a lot of, when you're in this space of coping so severely as you've been over the last few years, you can kind of take on things just to distract yourself, and they can kind of turn into these really big experiences that they were never meant to be. So, for example, some of you maybe had the traumatic experience in like summer 2016, then maybe in like October you took on a job with a nonprofit, and now you've like ascended really high into that ladder, and you're like overseeing all of the investments or something, and overseeing all of the client interactions, and it's like you were ever only meant to be at the entry position and then find something else, and you get like too tied in to something. That's very possible with Jupiter and Saturn doing what they're doing. So don't be afraid to save extra this year so that you can have a big change if you need. Try to not be too frivolous with transactions, whether that be like money or energy or emotion. Because there will come a time, I feel like around summer into fall of 2018, where Scorpio has to spend a lot, whether that be like emotional, physical, or money energy. It's good to kind of save up and be a bit more conservative with your spending in the first half, and really like go out with a bang as we build up to Jupiter moving into Sag. So do what you can there. Any other intuitive messages before I get into the next part of this forecast? Basically to just find a bit more hope within yourself. I think Scorpio can be very gloomy coming in with Saturn and Capricorn. Like the Scorpio and Capricorn energy creates a very, especially with Pluto there too, like a doom and gloom and realistic to a fault, kind of a nihilistic, fatalistic expression. It's good to find trust in something bigger than yourself, Scorpio, because like Jupiter doesn't put up with much of that type of thing, even though it's Jupiter in Scorpio, and it can expand this sort of nihilistic black and white experience. But again, it is the planet of lottery, fortune, good luck, benevolence. So it only puts up with so much like hyper reality mapping. So anyway, Scorpio, as you might have seen from some of the other videos in this series, I'm introducing 4 concepts. This video is long. I talked for a long time. But the first concept that I channeled in for Scorpio was becoming sharp in your projection. So there's something, I think, with Neptune and Pisces and Jupiter and Scorpio, just this kind of like water energy, that Scorpio feels to me like too fluid and too out there, like maybe too many rods and too many fires. Or at least the way that you're coming off or the image that you're projecting conforms to too many experiences. It's like you have to find your persona in 2018, and you have to like sharpen it. Like a more sharp, distinct way of enunciation and language is important. Like I feel like a lot of Scorpios are like slurring their words and blah, blah, blah. It's important to become sharp and understanding of how to articulate yourself and enunciate and communicate what you need to communicate, Scorpio, okay? Because a lot of problems come when Scorpio is not clear with what they want. You have to be clear without that becoming an ego prospect, if that makes sense. And also just becoming sharp in like your image as well, like not to get too much about like appearances, because that's very subject to interpretation. But I feel that Scorpios had to have a lot of time in like 2017 to just like wear their pajamas out to get coffee and just be like very disheveled looking and just kind of like unmanaged was needed for a while so that you could recharge. But when Jupiter's in your sign, there's got to kind of be like a grandiose, like very put together, very effort into yourself, because it pays itself off very well. So definitely sit with yourself and think about, okay, do I need to change an aesthetic? Do I need new wardrobe? Do I need new hair? Do I need something that can like naturally fall into place and look put together and kempt without having to try too hard? I feel it does a lot for Scorpio. And the next concept that I have for Scorpio is actually accepting that transformation is possible. This has been a big problem where you sort of know that like you are the sign of transformation, you're the sign of death and rebirth, but you felt very stagnant and stuck in some way. I feel like a lot of Scorpios are very tied to locations, like I'll never ever get out of Tennessee or something, or I'll never ever be able to go to the country that I want to live in. It's important to accept that it is possible and to then like generate a goal to actually prove to yourself that it is, because I also sense a lot of Scorpios, it's not a lazy thing, but what happens is you have so much energy that when you get into these headspaces where things become impossible, that you like spend it all, and this can result again in like acne or things like purging, like toxins coming to the surface and making you just feel very unwell and unable to do what you need to do. Like, this is a time where if you've wanted to have the move or live somewhere else, that, I don't know, you can work like 3 jobs for 2 months and fund it or finance it for yourself, rather than like laying in bed and feeling sorry for yourself that the universe hasn't like called you an Uber to like the new location or booked your flight for you, you know? The next concept I have for Scorpio is another quite simple one, and it's basically just reassessing goals and actually making them bigger. So I think a lot of Scorpios maybe say you've like written an album or written a book or something, and you're like, well, I can afford to maybe put a few $1,000 maybe into this book and finance it and get a campaign going, and when in reality it feels like you can go to like a label or a publisher and get like a 20 times what you think you could do yourself. Or there's something that's like, just by subverting your pathway just a little bit to the left and considering something that you haven't yet, that really opens a lot of doors in a resourceful, real and tangible way. So in that sense, I think if you're like writing the book and you're really trying to budget it out, like what can I do, what's realistic, like that you learned how to do that with Saturn and how to like release a book no matter what. But I feel with Jupiter now, you can, yes, release the book, but you can actually send it out to an audience that can receive it in a much better way, just through, again, like looking around and seeing options that go above what you think you can just do yourself, because everyone kind of wants to support Scorpio during this time as well. So like up and coming artists or people who aren't established can be like snatched up by labels or snatched up by big money or big power. In that case, you also have to be careful and make sure that you're not a pawn in power games. But I feel that most Scorpios are pretty lucky with this. You'd have to have something kind of going crazy in Gemini or Aries, I feel, to find yourself in like a really difficult power game. But definitely broaden your perspective and horizons to perhaps accept something bigger than what you've already anticipated. Okay, and the last concept for Scorpio, this one's a bit more complicated, is accepting grandiose experiences that only others could have as your own. So this is kind of where we get into strange territory with Scorpio energy right now, and you can find that people who've done you wrong, like their goals become very easily accomplished by you, and this is kind of a vampiristic concept actually, and is part of the Scorpio archetype. So if someone like took away your environment or took away your possibility, say they were like a really good singer or something, but they weren't going to do anything with that, and they like if you're in a, let me just set the whole story up for you guys. So say you're in like a relationship with someone and they're like a really good singer, but they're never going to pursue singing as a career, and in that relationship they basically put you through a terrible situation, like take away your livelihood, and it's like 2 years later you can wake up with the potential of their singing and market it from their perspective. This isn't a wonderful thing to do, and it's not something to consciously strive for, but it is basically something to capitalize on if it's already there. So if you wake up with the voice and find that, okay, maybe I won't get closure from this person, but they've given me something so much more valuable, take advantage of that and use it, because also you help cleanse karma for them too, by perhaps seeing you like be the singer or be the person who was able to do it when they never would have. It helps them to know that you could, and to prove that you had more value perhaps than they placed in you before. So definitely capitalize on whatever you've gained during this time, because it's sort of, and I'm not sure if my example has really communicated what needs to be said, but basically you can learn things very quickly and catch on very quickly. So you can suddenly like be the singer, or you can suddenly be the author, even if you've not put that much work into it, because of how much your psyche has explored it for like the last few decades mainly. But you have to then be able to put in the nail to the grindstone. Like there's a give and take there. Like the universe may give you sort of a collective archetype and energy of talent, but then you have to be able to like structure it with Saturn and make it into an incredible economy and experience for yourself. Okay, so Scorpios, your tarot card for 2018, let me just cut the cards here and draw for you. Okay, tarot card for 2018 for Scorpios is Nine of Cups. Wow, so beautiful, so perfect for Jupiter energy coming in. The luck card, the success card, but also like high horse card too. Watch out for being too smug. So for those of you who've like gotten the talent or have had the huge success, don't rub it in people's faces. Humble pie is good in 2018 because Jupiter and Scorpio can be like a majorly like foaming at the mouth type of ego. And try to not interpret my last story in the wrong way, and try to not suck other people's resources out from under them for yourself. It's basically about forming and forging something that was authentic within you that may not have had the activation properly before you had the pain and crisis to light the spark. And basically the other person's pain and crisis lit the spark, and it sort of transferred something that they had along with it, if that makes sense. But ultimately, Scorpio, 2018 will be a year that you remember for all your life. Take something here with you for the long haul, and don't hold back during this time either. Like, if there was a time to take a calculated risk, it is now. And try to not let the pain of Saturn from a few years ago take away from your possibilities and outlay here and now. Anyway, Scorpios, if this forecast has been resonating for you, you can click the center of your screen to download the companion write-up. I basically go month by month with a tarot card for each month, and I think that it's wonderful, very helpful. One click, it'll download to your smartphone and or tablet or computer. Anyway, subscribe, like, comment. I've enjoyed to be here. Much love. Talk soon. Bye.